Hello, TNT Managers. Tiffany here with Directing and Delegating Successfully. And before we get started, I'm reminded of a story I heard years ago where a young man was in a motivational type seminar and he got really discouraged through it. So he walked outside to get some fresh air and looked at everybody's tires, thought he'd be creative, and he actually let the air out of tires. And as everybody went to leave, he stood there and asked them, "Now, are your tires half full or half empty?" Well, I certainly hope nobody feels that way as we're going through this session today. So we're going to be talking about directing and delegating, how to do it, and ways to improve. Before we even get into that, though, I want to revisit the TNT mission and ask you if you know it. And if you know it, are you living it day in and day out? Because we've always got to know where we're going in order to see things clearly. It's challenging in the day-to-day. So it's important to get that vision very clear as to where you want to go, and then it makes it a whole lot easier to get there. So please make sure that you know the mission and that you're sharing it with your team. Are you asking them if they know it at the start of every meeting you have? This will probably be part of your quiz, so it's a good idea to refresh yourself and certainly making sure you're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Are you using that as a barometer for all the decisions that you're making? So if you could successfully direct and delegate to your team, number one, go ahead and hit pause after these questions, but tell me, what would successful directed delegation look like? And what would that mean to you? How would that change the challenges you face every day, the battles you feel like you're facing all the time? Go ahead and write down a couple things. When you come into managers training, the next one we have face-to-face, we're going to dive into these pretty deeply. So please hit pause, write down as many as you can think of. So our focus for this session, number one, is to understand yourself. You're going to get your disc back, so you'll get a chance to read that. Again, reviewing how to read others. And then what do we do once we read them? How to direct and delegate successfully. You will walk out of this session with a specific plan for your employees, at least one of them. It will be up to you to do a few more. But after today, whether you do this today, you break it up over a couple days, when you're done with this module, you will have one specific plan. So to get the most out of this session, be ready to take notes and bring them to managers training. If you simply listen, how much do you retain? About 10 to 12%, not a lot. So please make sure you're taking good notes so you can go back and review. Have your disc results ready to review, and that's what you should have received in an email before you're ready to start this. And this was a handout in managers training a couple months ago, so please make sure that you've got that to reference. It will help you. If you don't have one, go ahead and hit pause and send me an email so that I make sure I can get it to you. The other two handouts, make sure that you have printed these and you're ready to go, are handouts 3.1 and 3.2. They'll be attached to this module. Should be right alongside of it so that you can print those in order to use. Let's start off with a little VMT and a couple beliefs that I want to address because I have heard these in talking to different people at TNT. Sometimes people will say that I am the way I am. And we believe that that's just the way it always has to be. You can certainly hold that belief to be true. A better belief would be that I can adjust to become the best version of myself. In this training, I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm not asking you to change what you think are your strengths. We do want to look at becoming the best version that we can of ourselves. Another bogus belief is that other people will either be easy to work with or not. They're just made that way, or they're made to be really difficult. A better belief that will help you manage better is that I can bring out the best in others if I develop rapport and understanding. If I can develop better rapport and understanding with people, I can bring out the best in them. Think of some of your favorite coaches. Do you think they thought everybody was really easy to coach and work with? Or did they have to find creative ways to connect with some of those team members in order to bring out the best in them? I put these two together, that I cannot control a situation. You know what? Whatever happens, happens. I can't do anything about it. A better belief is that I control my responses to any situation, that I can control my responses. Another bogus belief is that it's hard to direct and delegate because I'm afraid it will not get done the right way. Many of you have heard our discussions about if you do delegate, that realistically we can expect to get about 70 to 75% of the quality and output that it would be if you were doing it yourself. So certainly if we direct and delegate, it may not be at the same level. However, you can probably even direct and delegate things to be better than you do it. I've certainly worked with people that are much better than I am in specific areas, and I would prefer to direct to them because they're going to produce better. But you can successfully direct and delegate if you understand others and have a plan to do it. Let's talk about that plan. The word impossible actually contains I'm possible. It's amazing how a little apostrophe in a space changes the meaning of that word. I'm not hitting my elbow there. We are going to focus on today what is possible. So go ahead and set your RAS. Remember, RAS is reticular activating system. What is it that you want to get out of your session here today? Be very specific. When we talk about directing and delegating, what do you need to walk away with? Little tip, this is a type of verbiage that you can start using with your team. Whenever you're meeting with somebody one-on-one, hey, let's set your RAS. What do you want to get out of our meeting today? Or they're going out in the field, ask them what they want to learn. And if they are setting their mind to finding a solution, I absolutely promise and commit to you, they will be able to find it. Look for those BFOs, because that means, aha, it all makes sense now. Successful people have three things: desire, design, and discipline. Desire, design, and discipline. I can't give you the desire. I can help you work on your plan, and I can help on the discipline in order to hold you accountable in certain areas. But we can't give anybody the desire. That has to come from you. So do you truly have the desire? Because if you do, then the design and discipline are what come next. A lot of people have desire, but they don't have design and they don't have discipline. If you were going to give yourself a score of 1 to 10 in each one of these areas, what would your score be? And where can you use some improvement? Okay, in your email that you received from me, you will see an Excel sheet that has the calculations of your DISC responses, and then on the tab 2 is where your plotted graphs will be. I've given this to you for a couple reasons. One, that you will now have the key to DISC, meaning any employee you hire, you can give them that questionnaire that you have, and they can complete it, and you'll be able to score them. So there's no excuse to not knowing what somebody's behavioral style is. Now, you've probably heard me say before that these behavioral styles the assessments are really valuable to have, and at the same time, it's important to balance what you observe of somebody. Remember, DISC is all about observing behaviors. So you should have your DISC, and it looks like this with a couple different dots on it, and I've left it that way so that you can graph out your DISC. So go ahead and connect the dots. That dark line in the middle is an energy level, so anything that's above that is where we're going to consider that behavioral style to be at a higher level. Now, it's unlikely that most people are only a high I or only a high D. most people are going to have some combination of that. So you've also received from me a little bit more of a detailed explanation of your styles and what it means to have a combination of these. You will see a most and a least. And at the top of your page, what I'd like you to write down next to most is adapted. That's your adapted style. What you are constantly striving to be, what you think other people want you to be, what you think the situation is asking you to be. On the other side is least. Least means it is, and you can write this down, your natural style. Natural is what you are going to be in your most relaxed state, when you're comfortable, your guard is down, or when you're at the highest stress possible, because you usually can't think as clearly when you're in a high stress situation. You're going to resort to whatever comes natural. It is very common to see a shift between the two of these, but not so drastic. If it's super, super drastic, then that person is probably finding their work situation to be very stressful, unless they thrive under that stress. I've certainly seen that as well. So remember, in all of these, nothing is good or bad, right or wrong. It's understanding what your natural style is and your adapted style. So go ahead now and take a few minutes to read over your description that you got. If you had two different styles, you'll get both of those. If your natural and your adapted were different, then you'll get both of those examples. And if they were similar, then you get one. Makes it a little bit easier on you. Read through it and go ahead and put some check marks by some things that you think, wow, this sounds right on. This is who I am. Or put an X right through it if you say, you know what? That is not me at all. It'd be interesting, though, if you asked who you report to or who reports to you, what they see. Because remember, what we see in ourselves is not always what other people see. In fact, we're pretty bad at, and I say this in a really nice way, we're pretty bad at understanding ourselves unless we are going through an intense self-evaluation stage of awareness. Most people I find, though, aren't real accurate in their perceptions of themselves. And that's not wrong. It's simply the way we're human. And we've got a lot of faults. So make sure as you're going through this, keep this with you and go ahead and show it to some other people. Find out what they think. Okay, so we've read your descriptors. Hit pause if you need some more time to do that. And write down in your notes, what are your priorities when it comes to managing? Hit pause, write them down. Please make sure that you have this handout, that you've downloaded this and printed it off in order for you to take your notes on this next section. So we're going to watch some pretty interesting videos where you're going to watch Charles, our manager here in the center. He's going to be directing and delegating to each style. 2 different videos you will get to see. The first one, which will be A, where he does not connect well with them, and then B, where he changes his style. The changes that you'll see aren't blatantly obvious, but they will give you the chance to experience the difference in connection and think about how you can start doing this with your employees. So here we go.
Also, I need your help finishing up that report.
Okay.
I've marked all the changes on this hard copy.
Okay. What do all these different colors mean?
Right. Well, I wanted to make sure that we were making all the changes exactly right, so I created this little cheat sheet to show you what I had in mind.
Okay. So, you want me to fix the margins, take some sections out, change the font, and then reformat all the footnotes. What's wrong with the way I did them?
Well, from now on, we're going to be using this new format, which I've outlined on the cheat
I don't
sheet.
see what difference it makes, but okay. Fine. What about all these little asterisks that say "see me"?
Oh, well, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do there, so if you could make the other changes first and then see me.
You also want me to take out pages 5 and 6? I spent a ton of time finding that data and putting it into tables just like you asked me. Why would we want to do that?
We just decided it didn't work.
Okay. Fine.
Good. So stop working on those new proposals for now and focus on this, and I'll be by around 2 o'clock to see what you've done.
Okay, what did we see Charles do with Carlos? Remember, Carlos is a high D. So he gives Carlos overly detailed instructions without providing the big picture. Remember, Carlos wants to see the big picture. He just dismisses Carlos' questions and concerns without really providing his reasoning. And then he micromanages Carlos by giving him a routine task and telling him he'll check in with him in a couple hours. And what do you see about Carlos? Well, he looks pretty irritated and frustrated. He states that he doesn't see the need for changes, and he agrees to it, but it's very reluctantly. And then he simply gets up to leave when he's had enough, which is typical of a D. So let's see how Charles can adapt his style.
I really need your help to get ready for this board meeting. I'm counting on you to whip this report into shape.
Sure.
The board has set some very clear objectives, and we've got to meet them.
Okay. It looks like they want to change the layout. What's wrong with the way I did the footnotes?
Well, the new rules call for industry standard formatting, and we've got to show the board that we're on top of it.
Okay. I'm sure I can pick up the new style pretty quickly.
Let's make sure that you have the big picture before you work on the rewrite.
Sounds good. It looks like they want me to take out pages 5 and 6. I spent a ton of time on that. Why would we cut it?
We just got in some new client data, and it's pretty clear that our original approach isn't going to work anymore. I've included some notes with my ideas, but I'd like to see what you can come up with.
I can definitely get going on it. When do you need it by?
Friday, at the latest. But sooner is better. You decide how to address the board's directives, and bring me a new draft when you think we got a winner.
Sure.
And what did you see Charles do differently? Well, he lets Carlos know right away that the report is for the board meeting. Bigger picture, he shows confidence in Carlos's ability, and he conveys a sense of urgency and gives Carlos autonomy on how to address the issue. He lets him figure it out. All right, let's go on to our I.
And I would like you to take over coordinating the conference.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a list of the presenters. And you'll need that. And have you ever done this before?
Nope.
Okay. Well, Carolyn did it last year. She has this notebook. You can take a look at it if you want. It's got some details in it.
Great.
On how to do it. And this manual. Here you go. There you go. I know. That's the style guidelines. And just make sure that the presenters get a briefing on that, at some point or whatever. So, thank you. Any questions or concerns?
Can't think of any. Looks like fun.
Okay. Well, I'll see you in a couple of weeks then.
Yeah, sounds good. Have a good time on your trip.
Thank you very much.
So what did Charles do that was not effective? Well, he gave a complex assignment just before leaving out of town. He knows that Anna has no experience in it, and he doesn't give her any structure or parameters. He gives her piles of information and assumes that she'll process it. And he mistakes her cheerfulness for acceptance and understanding. How many times have we done that where we think somebody who has I in them, because they're polite and they smile, that we think, oh, they've heard us and they've got it. What about Anna? Well, you see her just toss the notebooks on her desk without looking at them. She asks no questions, even though those instructions were very vague. Sound familiar? Have you guys ever given directions to somebody and they shake their head and pretend essentially that they understand, and a day later you realize they didn't know at all what to do? Let's see how Charles changes his approach.
And then I'd like you to be in charge of coordinating the conference at the end of April.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here are the presenters.
Okay.
That's a list. And now you haven't done this before, have you?
Nope.
Okay, do you have any kind of sense of what's involved?
Kind of.
All right, you're going to be fine. Carolyn did this last year. So let's find some time later where the three of us can talk.
Great.
That'd be good?
Yes.
Great. I've got her notes and the style manual. We can go over those. I'm sure she can save you some headaches.
I will set it up as soon as I get back to my desk.
All right, so I'm going to be gone by Thursday, and that's not for a couple of days yet, but I will talk to Maya so that she's prepared in case you have any questions.
Good.
Good, good. Now, I've got about 15 minutes right now. Maybe we could go over the details involved and set up some benchmarks and maybe a timetable?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
good. So, the conference is in April, and we've got to have an outline of each presentation by the third week in March. And they're going to want at least a month to prepare. So that means that they need to have their topics and the guidelines in hand by the end of February.
All right, and what kind of format do we usually give them?
Oh, good question.
All right, what did Charles do differently? Well, after he determined that she's never planned an event before, he put support in place to set her up for success. He suggests a collaborative meeting before he leaves town, and he gives her specific benchmarks and timelines. And what about body language? How does Charles approach Anna now? Can you see a difference in Anna's response?
So what have you got on the Scopes project?
I don't have anything. Was I supposed to have something?
Well, you knew this was coming up, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if you'd gotten an okay yet.
Christiana, we've got to keep pushing on this thing. Well, all right. When you get done here, then I want you to start on that proposal.
Okay.
And don't use that old template. It's clunky. Streamline the thing.
Do you have a sample or something?
Just take out the unnecessary pieces. Okay, so I'm going to be out starting tonight until Wednesday, and I'll look at it when I get back. But it's going to need to be very close to finished.
Wednesday?
This has to go out Thursday.
That's less than a week. If I have questions about the template...
Just get to the point. Cut out the unnecessary numbers, put them in an appendix. Make it clean, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'm actually late, but I also need you to take another pass at that summary you gave me last week. Now, parts of it were fine, but I thought that the middle was weak. So, maybe clean up sections 2 and 3?
Are there comments on it?
Yeah, here and there, but just reread it and rework it, and I think it'll be fine. I'm running late, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, you gotta love this manager directing to a high S, right? Charles, what does he do? Well, he's impatient and negative. He's criticizing Christina for not moving ahead, when really he's never communicated to her the need to do so. Gives her a tight deadline without support and resources, and fails to provide specific directions, which is what Christina really wants. And what does Christina do? What did you observe about her? Well, she's obviously surprised and uncomfortable when he asks her about the project. She's constantly asking for clarification and looks more and more worried when she doesn't get it. She says, okay, shakes her head, but that's showing that she doesn't really know how to get it done. Have you ever felt like you're in this situation as the manager? Let's see what Charles can do differently for Christina.
All right, so let's talk about the Scopes project. I am going to be out of town for about a week starting on Friday, so I wanted to make sure that you knew this was coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. Have you gotten an okay yet?
Actually, I'm still in the process, but we're going to have to start anyway. I'm sorry if that leaves us with a little uncertainty, but I wanted to get going on this sometime this week. And if there's any problem, I will take care of it. Now, I was thinking about the template that we've been using, and maybe we could try something a little more streamlined.
All right, did you have a sample or something that I could work from?
Well, what I did was I took one of your old reports and I made some notes about the sections that you could take out or at least pare down.
I will look at that.
If there's any problem reading my notes, just let me know. My chicken scratches aren't the best, and I'll be in the office for a few days, so it shouldn't be any problem getting a hold of me.
Sure, great.
Oh, okay. And then you can pull the history from the archives, and I think that's all you're going to need. So if you could just start thinking about that now, we need to get that out by the 17th. I think that gives us plenty of time.
Very different approach here. Charles meets with Christina 2 days earlier to inform her of the project and gives her time to do her work. He empathizes with her, those feelings of uncertainty, and reassures her and provides clear examples of how he'd like the template and summary changed. He compliments her work sincerely, right? S's want that sincerity and kindness. Genuinely, they want to see that. Okay, let's see the next one. Let's see what he does with a C.
This part here is fantastic. I showed it to Alan, and he was really impressed.
Good.
It was an amazing job, really. This back part, though, I think it could use some work. I think the sections need to be restructured.
To be honest, this really seems like the clearest way to structure it.
Well, Alan and I had the same reaction. It doesn't pull things together.
Any particular areas?
Really, I think you just need to take another pass at it.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay, and with the contracts, if you and Sasha and Jen could get together and work on those.
I thought we were splitting them up.
No, I think that you should take on each one as a group.
Well, we really could get through them a lot more quickly if we split them up.
Yeah, but I think that more heads the better. So if you could schedule the meeting, that'd be great.
Is there a process you want us to use?
Well, why don't you give it a shot? I'll take a look at it next week.
But it would be really nice if we didn't have to do things over after we finished, like we did with the last batch. That was kind of a mess.
I'm sure that whatever you three come up with will be fine.
Do you have the files yet?
Oh, you'll have to track those down.
Any ideas where they might be?
They might be in the warehouse. I think that's the last place I heard that they were. So that'd be a good place to start. Let me know if you have any problems.
All right.
All right.
Oh boy, what did Charles do here? Well, he failed to provide details about what doesn't work with the document. He insists on a team project when Michael believes that it would be handled better on his own. Charles is very vague and doesn't provide direction or finding resources. Charles thinks that Michael should just know what to do. And what do we see about Michael? Well, he's asking for more information he needs, but Charles doesn't seem to hear him. And when Charles doesn't provide it, he shakes his head and sighs, and even though he agrees to try, it's a pretty passive agreement. Charles' failure to provide information on the location of the files really starts to tear away the performance that Michael could perform. Let's see how he changes.
Now, I think that this part looked really, really good, particularly the bullets. They give a clear overview.
Okay.
And then the section in the back. I think it needs a little bit of work, and I'd like to talk to you about options for the structure.
What were you thinking?
Well, I'd like to see if it could be a little more cohesive. I do have some notes here where I point to the parts that I didn't think fit, and we can go over them this afternoon.
All right.
Great. Okay, on to the contracts. Now, you, Sasha, and Jen will be working on those. Do you want to do it as a group, or do you want to split them up?
We'll get more done if we can work independently.
Sure, but I want a group review in there somewhere, so maybe do the drafts and then get some input before you get too far?
That'll work.
Great. Well, but before we get to that, though, I have got some new ideas about the process that you can use to make sure that we don't waste time going the wrong direction. So I'd like your input on those as well.
Yeah. By the way, do we have the files yet?
Oh, you know, I haven't heard back on that yet. We're going to need to track those down. I will check my email, and I'll find the guy you need to call.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the process that I've created. I think that it's focused on the agenda that we were.
Okay, what did you see differently here? Charles gave a lot more detail and specifics. Remember, that's what a C needs in order to work on this document. He gives examples of Michael's good work. And he's flexible about Michael's preference to work alone. He asks for input on the work process, and he provides clear direction and resources. Okay, I want everyone to take a deep breath. You've accomplished a lot in this training, so I want to congratulate you. Let's go over super lightning fast what you have done. Number one, we have revisited the TNT mission. Are you using it? Are you using this with your team? We've stated what it would mean to you if you could delegate successfully. Remember, go ahead and bring those to our next training session because we're going to visit these again. So that list should be in front of you. It's hard to delegate successfully, but if it's worth it to you, you will find a way. You've learned more about your disc style, very specifically. We've talked about better beliefs that you can hold. We've set your RAS for this session. So my question is, did you get what you wanted to get out of this? We've talked about your management style. What are your priorities? We've watched videos of do and do nots when it comes to directing and delegating. And now we'll come up with your plan to delegate successfully. So this will be your homework to come into training. In order to help you with this homework, you've got a couple resources already. I've mentioned the flip out chart of everything disc management. Remember, if you don't have it, make sure you ask for it. And you've also got the form on understanding others from your previous training. Pull that out. That will help you understand your team. So once you have identified one person in particular that you want to focus on first, make sure you have printed this off, which is directing and delegating your action plan. Identify where you believe their style to be. Remember, most people are going to be a combination. They're not going to be only D or only I. They will have S and C tendencies, or you will notice the I and the S. So manage around both of those. Use those two resources that you have in order to identify what that person needs. So if you look at the flip out chart that you have and you know that you're delegating somebody who has a lot of I and S, you've got down on that page specifically what you need to do to direct and delegate to them. Remember Charles. What did Charles do or not do effectively? So go ahead and complete your action plan for directing and delegating. And then when we're in person at the next training, we're going to go into more detail of this. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Does it take time to stop, hit pause, and think about a meeting before you go into an employee? Absolutely it does. And what have we learned from who will do what by when? This was a really big takeaway I heard from many people share with me, that although it may take a lot of time up front to clarify communication, it almost always ends up being less time than what it does to clean up a mess once it's occurred. So thank you. Thank you for your participation today. Let me know if you have questions, and I will see you all in your next training.